Welcome to Test Your Network, an EXFO podcast aimed at helping you leverage our expertise in network testing and monitoring. Through guest interviews, trending discussion topics, and more, you'll gain actionable insights about successfully deploying next-gen networks, including 5G. EXFO has been a leader in the fiber industry for over 30 years, and they've innovated once more with the release of a brand new approach to fiber testing. Joining me today to talk about this new innovation and why it's necessary in the industry is Maury Wood. He's a business development manager for EXFO. Maury, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here, Tyler.
Absolutely. Well, Maury, let's just start off here. Tell me a little bit more about this new product innovation. What is it and what are its functions?
Sure. The product is called the Optical Explorer, which we refer to as the OX1. And it's innovative because it is the industry's first optical multimeter. And this kind of harkens back to the days of copper-based communications, when technicians would typically carry an electrical multimeter, which would have functions like a voltmeter and an ohm meter and other things. And so it was a handheld instrument that allowed you to do a variety of things. And so we've kind of done the same thing here with the OX1, with the Optical Explorer, in that it is a handheld device for optical communications in this case, sort of updating the concept here, where we have 5-6 different functions that address frontline requirements for technicians that are doing all different sorts of optical communication, whether that's turn up or verification or repair. So it's sort of across the board for the frontline tech that really needs to have a single tool that meets all these different needs.
Yeah, so as you looked out at the industry, what were some of the pain points that your customers were experiencing that this product helps ease? Were you noticing things that you thought, okay, we can certainly meet that need with this particular product?
Yeah, one of the sort of well-known challenges that our customers face is attracting and retaining technicians that can do the work that they have to face every day. These customers face every day. So one of the sort of the associated challenge with that is that you have to, of course, train those technicians. And when that training process is long relative to what evidently is a relatively short tenure period, in other words, technicians might come on and stay with a company for a year or two, but if you have to spend a month or something to train them to become productive, then you're sort of one step forward or two steps forward, one step back. So one of the nice things about the Optical Explorer, the OX1, is that it is explicitly intended for those frontline technicians who our customers would like to see become productive as rapidly as possible. So it's not something that requires a whole lot of training time. It allows them to get out into the field and carry out the kind of tasks that I mentioned a minute ago, again, without a whole lot of training time. So the other way to think about this in terms of these pain points is that when there are more significant issues, in other words, the frontline techs notice that there is, for example, probably the most profound thing that can happen would be that a fiber link that might be some 10 miles long or something like that actually has a break in it, which might have been caused by a backhoe doing construction work, for example. The OX1 can rapidly identify the fact that there is a break, and then I think that the normal course of events would be that technician would alert his or her supervisor, and then they would call in somebody that has a bit more expertise to operate something that is called an OTDR, which is a bit more of a sort of an expert level kind of a tool to be able to identify exactly where that break has occurred and the characteristics of that. So it allows our customers to be able to approach some of the problems that impact their services in a way that is tiered, so that the frontline techs can raise some of these more profound issues to a team of more specialized employees or technicians.
Yeah, and this area, when it comes to fiber deployment, it requires a lot of technicians right now just because of the mass fiber deployment due to the implementation of 5G, right? So this really does allow for a higher volume of technicians to be in the field, which then, it speeds up operations and things along those lines, right? Which is something that all of your customers, I'm assuming, are certainly shooting for.
Yeah, that's right. And thanks for raising that issue, Tyler. Absolutely. So 5G wireless services is creating a huge surge of fiber deployment because the bandwidth and latency sort of goals of 5G are such that whether it's in a metro area or in more of a rural area, it's requiring something like 10 to 100 times more fiber infrastructure to support those performance goals. So you can imagine that in a competitive business environment that our customers are operating in to get 5G wireless services out to the market as quickly as possible, they're having to correspondingly hire a lot of technicians to get that work done. And one of the other merits of the Optical Explorer is that sort of beyond the fact that it has some of this functionality that allows them to do half a dozen different tasks, as I mentioned. It also allows them to do it very productively because time is money, obviously, and because of the competitive pressures in the industry, the metric of success can be who can get 5G services into a metro area most quickly. So it's very well aligned to sort of those macro trends that we're seeing across in this case, the wireless industry.
Yeah, I want to reiterate and hit on a point there that you made, just that idea of time being money, because if you can save your customers time, you can save them money, which then helps them be more productive overall in this overall goal, right? So as you're looking at not just, what this product does, but why it exists and why it's beneficial, that time and money saving aspect of it has to be just a huge reason why this product is so valuable to the marketplace.
Absolutely. So to sort of put some meat on the bones of that, this one tool, which I said is a handheld instrument, which has a very attractive graphic user interface that delivers kind of a smartphone user experience, which of course, all of us are, I think I can say, at least I can speak for myself and say we're all sort of addicted to our cell phones, right?
Right.
So it's sort of reminiscent of that experience. It allows you to, for example, very quickly assess the quality of a link. We have a very interesting innovation. It's a 5-star rating that comes up within 3 seconds of testing a fiber to give you a qualitative sort of immediate sense of the quality of the link. It also provides the insertion loss and the optical return loss of that link, which are two critical health metrics associated with a fiber connection. It can also, the OX1 can also operate as a light source. So on one end of the fiber, you shine infrared light down the fiber, and the other end, you'd use a second OX1 to check the power level of that light to make sure that the expected power is being delivered at the far end of the fiber. We also have sort of 2 additional steps beyond the very rapid assessment that I mentioned a second ago that we call the Flash Advisor, which allows you with 2 features. One called the Fault Explorer. The Fault Explorer allows you to actually then, if there are any impairments on the fiber, to sort of get the next level of detail. And then if you kind of want to spend a little bit more time, and I'm talking about sort of on the order of a minute or so, you can actually get what the industry refers to as a link map view of the fiber, which identifies all of the events. And those events could be, as I mentioned earlier, either a break, which is sort of the most profound event, or if you have a bend in the fiber, bends will cause attenuation on fiber, and so those will be identified. Or if splices were done improperly, or if any optical connectors in the link are contaminated, those will all be identified. And so those are some of the sort of the key features of the product, and as I hope, again, sort of substantiating some of the value proposition of the product. A lot of functionality, very easy to use, and as you sort of alluded, very productive and saves our customers time and money.
Yeah, and I want to hit on that easy to use aspect of it. Do you have any, have you gotten any feedback or have you heard any stories from customers or from the testing processes of utilizing this product that speaks to its ease of use and how quickly it can be deployed out in the field?
We have, in fact, I've seen that with my own eyes. It's the kind of a thing where with technicians that have even just a couple of years of experience, they'll pick it up. They'll immediately want to put it on a fiber. As I mentioned, the graphic user interface is very straightforward, very easy to use. And so really without almost any training, they can begin to start pushing buttons and getting results. And whether that's for fiber continuity, which is a big challenge of our customers, where particularly when you're establishing new fibers that out to new 5G radio sites, you have to make sure that the fiber that you're expecting to have been routed to the correct radio is in fact been routed, because the process of connecting those fibers back to a hub site and then back out to the radio site is a manual process in which human error can come in, and so you need to be able to validate continuity from the hub site out to the radio site. And so it's quite fun and quite remarkable to see the technicians hook it up and within minutes start getting results of, gosh, okay, got the first continuity established, move on to the next fiber and the next fiber and the next fiber, and with a few minutes they've gotten through their task list. So, and then along the way, if they see that there's a problem, they can start using some of the other features that I outlined just to understand, well, what's going on between here and there, and what can we do to try to mitigate those issues. So absolutely, I think it's a combination really of the level of functionality that's in this instrument, and then the ease of use just allows people to really jump right in.
How do you view this product having maybe an impact on the industry as a whole, as it relates to 5G and the implementation of of all of the fiber that it's going to be required to make 5G an increasing reality? How do you view that this product perhaps affecting the industry and maybe speeding up that deployment? Do you feel like it can have that widespread of an impact?
We do. I mean, the keys are going to be productivity, ease of use. Not requiring a lot of training time to get the technicians as productive as possible, as rapidly as possible. I don't want to, over focus on 5G. 5G is driving a big sort of a bump with respect to needs for more fiber infrastructure. But, many of us these days benefit from having fiber to the home service, and that's still a very, very important. In fact, the most important and fastest growing method of broadband access into homes and businesses.
Right.
And so again, whether it's out to a radio for wireless services to our smartphones, or if it's to your home so you can then go through a Wi-Fi router and get broadband in your home, this tool is agnostic to that, and it will allow technicians, whether they're working on fiber to the home or on these 5G, 4G, 5G deployments, again, to be super productive. And I think, honestly, the sort of the user experience is such that it kind of brings a little bit of joy to their lives. I feel a little funny saying that, but again, the user interface delivers this smartphone-like experience. It's very easy to get reports through your smartphone off the device, so that if your job requires you to report results to your supervisor, you can get those reports very easily. So there's sort of a whole host of features here which improve matters and sort of the overall experience of the product. And just a couple more things to add on that would be, for example, the charging port is USB-C, which is sort of the current easiest to use non-keyed connector interface to charge the battery. We have a really neat innovation that we call the click-out connector. So as you can imagine, the so-called entry port, where you plug the fiber under test into this device, that port, that interface gets sort of the most action, if you will. It gets the most activity, and over time, of course, it's sort of natural to expect that port, that optical connector, gets a little bit scratched up or can get a little bit scratched up and degraded. In the past, it would be required to send the unit back to the factory to replace that port. But with this click-out entry connector innovation, it's a sub module that includes that connector. And so rather than having to send the whole unit back, if you have a second one of these clickouts, you can just remove the worn one, replace it with the unworn one that you have as a backup, and then purchase another clickout connector. And the nice thing about that, of course, is there's zero downtime that way in terms of availability of that instrument to do productive work. The other thing is the touch screen is nice and large, color touch screen. We have a 3-year warranty on the product. So there's just a number of attributes which make this very nice to use, very easy to use for our customers.
Yeah, you know, when I think about this on a wider scale, I think this also speaks to EXFO's ability to recognize needs in the industry and meet the needs of your customers, and really maybe even anticipate what those needs and what those pain points are, and be able to create products that can help with those pain points and ease the workload out in the field. You know, how does this product and this development maybe speak to that larger goal for EXFO of just making sure that what your customers and what your clients have is exactly what they need to get their jobs done?
Yeah, and I think this is something, Tyler, that EXFO has done very well over the 3 decades that we've been in business, and that is that process of understanding the customer pain points requires a lot of interaction with the customers, listening carefully to the requirements, and then trying to shoot a little bit ahead of the duck, because obviously it takes a year or two to get out a new product like this that has embedded software in it and a lot of new technology. And so you kind of have to be quite attuned to the trends and understand what the requirements are going to be, so that by the time you actually come out with a product, that you meet those requirements sort of spot on. And I think, speaking for EXFO, I think that we feel that this is a good example of that, where we're really hitting the market in a great time with respect to things like the 5G that we talked about, where we have a product that really will make a very definite impact on our customers' productivities and the outcomes they have with these deployments. So, we're proud of the fact that we're kind of hitting the space, the application spaces that we're targeting with a product that we think is well tuned to those requirements.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure getting the opportunity to learn a little bit more about this product and how EXFO, as always, is working to meet those customer needs and move the industry forward. And so, Maury Wood, Business Development Manager at EXFO, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Test Your Network.
Absolutely, Tyler. My pleasure to be with you today.
And everybody, thank you for listening to this episode of Test Your Network by EXFO. Of course, there are previous episodes, one with Maury, in fact, that you can go back and listen to, as well as there will be future episodes as well. So be sure to stay tuned for those. You can, of course, subscribe on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts to make sure you get those episodes as well. We'll be back soon with more, but until then, I've been your host today, Tyler Kern. Thanks so much for listening.